Well, welcome back to our study called The Curse, and today we're looking at Genesis 3:16, specifically looking at the curse directed towards Eve. And we're going to talk about the pain of women here. So, sin comes with its consequences, and for the woman, she would experience them mainly in two ways. First, birth pains. God says He would multiply the pains of childbearing, and in pain she would bring her aforementioned offspring into the world. This has at least two different implications here. First is the obvious one, physical pain, right? Don't need to tell you, especially mothers, that there is physical pain in bearing children and delivering children. But there is also an emotional, spiritual pain she has to experience. This comes from the other meaning of the word translated as pain, which is heaviness. Before the fall, if Eve would have had children, she would have brought her children into a perfect world. But now she would have to bring children out of her womb, out of the protection that she could provide them, into a sin-infected and hostile environment. How much greater must this heaviness have been when she gave birth to Seth, after she had witnessed her firstborn murder her secondborn? Think about that. It's a lot of pain there. A lot of pain. God also said that there would be relationship pains too. Eve would also find that she had now problems with Adam. Adam right away throws her under the bus, and so God says that part of the curse is that you're going to struggle with your husband. Now this verse is translated that Eve's desire would be contrary to Adam's, or that her desire would be toward Adam, and he would rule over her. God, by virtue of Him being God, created Adam first and made him as head of the human race. Eve was created second, not as an inferior, not as a second kind of class person, but as a helper. Adam was the ruler, Eve was the assistant. Two different jobs here, different roles. Both created in the image of God, both had that, both had souls, in many ways very much alike, but the roles that they were to fulfill in creation were different. So in perfection, this relationship would have been mutual satisfaction, complete satisfaction. They wouldn't have had any problems between each other. But in the fallen state, Eve would struggle with this. She would desire to rule over her husband. She would desire to flip the roles. She wouldn't want to submit. Naturally, she doesn't want to submit. She would want to have that control that God gave to Adam. This problem would be passed on generation after generation. And eventually Paul would address it in his day in Ephesians chapter 5. It is interesting to note that the same phrase, your desire shall be contrary or toward, is the same way that God describes sin crouching at Cain's door. In the same way that sin would dominate Cain unless he ruled over it, Eve would want to dominate Adam. That's huge, right? So this is a problem. It's been the butt of jokes for millennial, and the idea that the woman is the boss, she wears the pants, let me go talk to the boss first. That kind of stuff. It goes all the way back to Adam and Eve and the curse that Eve would want to rule her husband and not take the God-ordained role that He gave to her. So we see that a lot of the problems stem all the way back to that. It's part of our sinful nature, and this is part of the curse that Eve would have to deal with, that she would have to struggle with to try to overcome it and to fight against it her entire life.